Okay. All right, so it's 6 o'clock on March 21st. This is the pool subcommittee meeting. We have I almost said Hughes. Wow, that's been a long time. I haven't messed that up in a long time. Mayor Southard, and we have our pool committee members. We have Kelly and we have Gina. And then MKSK is here to present and talk us through more about the pool. So we'll let you guys get going.
Okay, great. So we brought the initial presentation as well, where we went over all that. So I don't know if there's any new folks. I don't think with you two, but
have you seen the initial presentation that showed the different pools that they've done?
Other pools.
I believe so,
You know, kind of, would it help to have like a refresher?
Kelly, you probably haven't
I
seen
don't
that.
think I did.
Okay.
Okay, let's
Just real quick, maybe.
Let's go ahead and kind of and go through this. We'll go through it basically fairly quick. So
Sure.
what this is like a kind of tour of other facilities around Columbus, right? And what some of the other communities have done, and we use it as kind of a benchmarking, right? You know, what are others doing? What are the decisions they made? You know, what are the rough costs? Of things. So anyway, so yeah. Go ahead and just kind of pop in here. So this here is the Athens, Ohio pool. Mm-hmm. And they had to do a complete replacement. Their pool was, it was jumped out of the ground and it was built too low. So when the river floods, the pool would flood, which you basically had to start over. You know, so anyway, but they saved up and worked on that. It's, it has had a slide, but the slide doesn't dump into the pool. The slide dumps in a run out, right? So it's saved on pool surface water, but it had a zero beach. So it essentially had a family pool and then a dive pool. But the dive pool was attached, right, with that little connection, so that you really have one pumping system for that pool instead of three.
I got ahead of you, sorry.
Yeah.
I thought we were rolling through.
It's the top center is the little
Yeah,
connection.
see that little connection on the top middle?
Yeah.
That connects the lap pool with the dive pool, and that makes one pumping system instead of two. So in pools, there's a lot of health code requirements that tend to dictate the design a little bit. But people are pretty creative in how to work around that. This project also had a splash pad, which you see on the left, but it was fenced in such a way that when the pool closed, you closed the gates on the pool side and it was open to the park. So you can continue to run the splash pad for the buffer months, early and late. Right? So it's still hot, right, but the pool's closed because communities tend to lose their lifeguards, right? You go back to school, et cetera, right? And so this was done at this pool. It was also done at Bexley's pool, that way. It just helps extend the water, access to water season. And you can see the zero beach, kind of thing. Simple structure. And this pool, if I remember rightly, was around $7.3 million. Complete replacement. All the structures, everything. Parking got expanded. And it's been obviously wildly popular because in Athens, it's the newest thing, out there. So,
And I got a complete tour of this pool from the director last year. She took me in every building and every room, so I got to see it all.
nice.
Yeah.
Now, how many pumps did you say this one runs with?
Well, if you just think about it, every time you have a separate pool, there's a pump system, right? So they don't like you to have separate pools running on the same pump system, right? So that's why you'll see connections like this, right? And so your pool is essentially one pump system, except for the baby pool that was replaced, and it's on its own.
It was all connected at one point.
But it was all connected,
Yes, it was.
right? That was 50 years ago, the way they did things on it. So the health department's pretty restrictive on things now, right? They just are, they need to be. So that's what dictates pools, at times.
When I toured this pool, I thought they only had 3 pumps for the whole thing. I think there was 1 or 2 that ran more than one. Like the baby pool and splash pad might have been on one.
That could be.
Yeah.
But they have the slides, which is the pump
Right.
system. They have the family pool that has
Yep.
the zero beach is one,
Yeah.
and then the comp dive pool is one. So
Yeah.
those are the 3 main ones.
Right.
But then, the spray pad works off of basically water pressure for the most part. And then there's a separate baby pool
Right.
in this one. And baby pools are always, because they're a small amount of water, are always the toughest to manage. Right? You have less water. If something happens, it doesn't dilute very quickly, right? So you'll see a lot of facilities now, they have the baby pool just so it doesn't shut down the big pool if there's an accident.
Yeah.
Right? So that's all, even though it's tough to manage, it's like a safety thing, right? Because it won't take the swimming out for everybody else. So those are just, kind of some guidelines that they like to, to do. And then we try to keep, lawn near the pool, right? You don't like to have, like a concrete jungle out there, right? So the decks, we always try to keep the decks reasonable width, some for chairs, but really try to rely on a lot of turf, right? Because it's cooler on that, the pool that I think it has notoriously too much deck is the New Albany pool.
Oh,
If you've been on that. I don't know how they ended up that way, but I think they felt like all the chairs need to be on concrete.
Yes.
And it's like a sea of concrete. It's too much on that. So we try to keep them very green. So it's like a pool in a park versus, a big paved area for that. Okay, next Andy. Yep. This is Grantley Pool, which is fairly new as well. You'll see the same kind of connection there, the same dive well connected to the comp pool. You'll see the zero beach and the elongated pool. Their slide drops into the water, which, I think from a play value is more fun, right? I think, kids like that more from that. This was a postage stamp site, so it was really had to be fit in there. It took us a while to get that site plan, worked out. They salvaged the barrel tiles off the roof of the old structure, and that's on that little turret tower of their new building on it. So they brought that forward with that. But a lot of the same things, other than you can see a bench, that lower right photo. There's a bench along the baby pool wall. The baby pool looks like it's attached to the pool, the main family pool, but it's really not. There's a wall between it, and we have benches on both sides. So you feel like when you take the baby pool and you drag it away from the main pool, sometimes, when parents trying to watch multiple kids in different places, it doesn't work so well, from that. So that's how they ended up, and it's safe space because they didn't have much land. Okay, next. Lincoln Pool, this is part of the Columbus pools. And as they've been rolling through replacing all their pools, this is probably the one that they felt is the best model for them. And you can see how the water's all connected in this pool. The only separate pool in this is the dive well. So there's really only 2 pumping systems on this one. And the top pool is, basically kind of combined with that kind of wet spray pad area in there. So Columbus likes this. They like this. Now they take on different configurations. And like, for instance, from the programming standpoint, where the slide, drops into the end of the pool there, you'll see it has a rope and that kind of cords off that area for the slides. But when they're teaching swim lessons, they like that big set of steps there leading into that pool, so the kids can all sit on the steps and they take them out, right, for the number of instructors they have to teach swimming. The slide's not running during that time, but it doesn't shut down the rest of the pool when they're having swim lessons. It just shuts down the slide. So, when you get into the real nitty-gritty of it, it comes down to your programming, right, of how you're going to run your pool.
Right.
And that's what really dictates these things. So we've just made some assumptions for the conceptual master plan that we've done to date, right? Using a lot of these things that we have seen work well for other communities. When you really get into design, then that's when you get into specifics.
Yep.
How much was this one?
This one here was a little under 7 million, like 6, 8. But it was also done probably 6, 8 years ago.
I think one of your last slides is the pricing and the year it was done, so.
Yeah.
Good.
And so it's, like I was revisiting the estimate that we, attached with the concept thing.
Yep.
And the contingency's in there because, you know, when we did that, we were still kind of a crazy town bidding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And we're starting to see that back off
okay,
a little bit,
that's good,
right? So I think we would pull some of that out.
okay,
But I still think to replace what you have, and you know, but we talked about phasing a little bit. I think you
Yeah.
asked the question, Jason, you know,
Yeah.
about phasing. And the problem with that is the health code forces you into all kinds of stuff, like the pool's pool, but then you gotta have the restrooms.
right,
You gotta have a mechanical building, otherwise it's like Worthington where your equipment's sitting outside. Because, you know, their pump house blew up, they had to basically replace it, or
Wow.
put the equipment outside. And they're, so, you know, so they're really band-aiding. They got pipes running across the ground.
Yeah.
You've seen that over there.
I
And they
haven't seen
made a
it, but
decision yet.
I've heard of it, and I know that they're looking to replace theirs.
Yeah, they don't
How they
have
got it approved?
I don't know if they did or not.
Worthington? Yeah.
Worthington's pools.
Was that voted on Tuesday?
I don't know.
They were gonna do,
Oh,
they talked
was
about a
it part of
levy.
the-
They talked,
Oh, like a levy?
they talked about a levy,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that's what.
Well, I don't know, all those levies, a lot of those
Wow.
levies
It
failed
was,
miserably.
I know, it was like 10 million on the low end and 15 on the high end, if I remember
15's
correctly.
probably more where they're at, because they have a little indoor piece too. I don't know if they're treating that separate, right?
It depended if they were gonna replace all of the pools, or if they were gonna repair some and replace others, is what I had heard.
Yeah.
I read through their whole
They've got
report.
multiple pools.
Yes, I think they have
And they're
three.
different eras.
Yep.
When they were built.
Correct, yep,
So, yeah, my guess is like the stainless pool they have, they could probably reuse that.
yeah,
So, Maryland pool, again, another Columbus pool, very similar, different configuration, very similar program. On that one. Different architects, the buildings are different. This is the first one Columbus did, the Dodge pool.
okay,
And this one has a separate bathing pool amenity. And the buildings are exactly the same. They repeated that building now, I think, 3 or 4 times.
gotcha,
On it, and then they just changed the pool up
Okay.
on it. And it has a separate dive well too, where it stands alone. And the reason that the aquatics pool designers do that is that a dive well is deep. Well, the code, when you transition from a deep pool to the shallower pool, even like the lap pool, which is maybe called 5 foot deep, that you can only slope at a certain gradient. And so that's really water that's kind of unusable, right? Because it's, you can't stand. And so they usually will make that connection, it's connected, with just a small connection, right? So they minimize the amount of water they're buying for the transition to save on the pumps, right? This one in Bexley had separate wells that were separately pumped, but they had no transition, so they weren't buying water that they didn't use
yeah,
on it. So that, there's a little formula in there that they kind of use on that, but that's why you see different configurations like that.
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, we kind of like the separate dive well, because when it's a dive well, that's all you're doing in it. And then a lot of times they'll add like a climbing wall to it. And so they'll have a time when you can climb the wall and you fall back in the pool.
Right.
That kind of stuff. Dublin has done that, and a few others.
Yeah,
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
I think Worthington actually has that in one of their
Worthington, I
plans.
think, has added that,
Yeah.
one of their pools.
Yeah,
Yeah. Dublin North Pool, this one's probably the most recent pool. It was built on an existing site. They had a big component to it. You can see the slide splashdown area, but it's like separated by a wall.
right,
But it's still connected, sealed this in where you can walk from the end of the pool
yep,
into it. So again, that saves on the filtering equipment from that end. But this is a pretty good sized pool.
Right.
These were large pools. They were serving a pretty good sized chunk of the community with this pool
right,
from that. Okay. Here's a Bexley pool. This is one of the first ones, I think, of the new, kind of the new approach. And you can see the splash pad, a rubberized splash pad. It had a piece of equipment in the family pool. Essentially called like a playground. The baby pool was separate. The dive well was also separate, but it was a single board dive well. Do we have a photo of that in the next one on here or not? Nah, we don't. But it's funny to see just a single board dive well.
Right.
It's not that big.
Right,
right? So, but it just comes, they're serving a smaller community,
yeah,
from that. And so things were reduced in
Right.
size. Betsy was the one where the mayor down there, he said, well, they told me they could build that pool for $1.5 million. And I'm like, okay, that's the pool
right,
and the equipment. No deck, no fence, no buildings over the equipment, no restrooms. There's nothing else with it. They could build the pool, sure.
yeah,
But you couldn't open it because you didn't have all that other stuff.
Right,
that the
right.
department requires.
Right.
I go, that's true. So it's everything else that adds up. And then this year's Reed Road Water Park, which was a pool in Thunder Arlington, this is probably now going on 12, 14 years maybe.
okay,
And it has a little lazy river in it that you can see. And then it has this, see the middle bottom, this circular thing, they
Yeah.
call that a vortex.
Oh,
And the
yeah.
water in there goes round and round and round and round.
yeah,
And we were, looking at the Aquinas consultant going, wouldn't little kids drown in that, And they're like, nah, we'll have a guard there, But again, that translates to management
right,
costs, right? So if we take an approach where you can run the pool on minimal guards, right, and still meet all the code safety requirements, that's an approach too. That saves on your operations
Right.
from that. But that was a pretty neat pool that was done. Lots of the big umbrellas that people could hide under.
Right.
That slide was also a run-out slide that you can see the slide, like that middle bottom picture. You can see the slides coming. Well, the water dumps back into the main pool, but it doesn't connect.
okay,
The water's connected,
okay,
but the slide doesn't connect. It's not a splashdown.
gotcha,
And that was a budgetary thing. They were trying to save dollars on water surface area. So that's how they did that. Okay. And then this is kind of cost comparisons here, I think,
Right.
of all the basic pools here.
yeah,
So we took those costs and we escalated them right to 23.
yeah,
And it kind of gives you an idea.
okay,
And so I think when I look back at your estimate, that we had done with these three concepts, that we put out there, to get down to about 12, because of the additional building, but that building was only like 750 to 800,000 that was in
Right.
there. And then it was the parking lot, right? Because the parking lot's gravel today.
yep,
And so the paving on that was a little pricey. But my gut is, I think if we, as we looked at the concepts, if we, shrunk things down, were a little more efficient with the use of water, I think we could be in that some range of 8 to 9, right? And try and get them in there. But then I think it also depends on your event center piece. How big does that want to be, right? Because that's like an added program. Like Athens
Right.
had rooms, well, call it garage door roll-up rooms that open to the pool,
yep,
that you could rent for like birthday parties and that kind of stuff. And when they have a swim meet, the swimmers would hang out in there, that kind of stuff. The community could rent it, in like the fringe seasons or through the summer as well. And so we kind of took all this and we looked at the site plan and we jumped into like 3 options here and said, well, let's do 3 options that we think would fit this site, very specifically, and kind of, check all the boxes for the program items that, we all had kind of talked about,
Right.
that we liked. And so this is option 1. And so Andy, maybe, since you generated a lot of these, why don't you maybe walk them through this a little bit?
It's been a little while.
So this was the concept where our waters are all connected, aside from the splash pad, which is kind of just pumped through anyway. So this was keeping all the water together, and we were going. Looks like we had our dive and our competition pool over on the right, closest to the bathhouse. And then we worked our way to more of the family, where it was adjacent to the the existing baby pool.
Yeah,
So this was trying to align all the family stuff together and keep the competitive stuff together as well.
I don't remember what the rectangle.
At the bottom,
Yeah, that
that's
was.
the
that's the
current
baby
That's the
pool.
baby.
And that right next to that.
Yeah.
right,
That splash pads.
In this
Think-
case, this is where we put the splash.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, Kelly, you've seen all these, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I think this is where we've had a lot of discussions around it already.
yep,
So I don't know that we need to necessarily go through each one because I
Yeah.
feel like we've talked through
Yeah.
it. I mean, we know what we would like. I think the issue is that we gotta figure out cost.
Correct.
And how we're gonna do this, because we're told, I'll be honest, our fiscal officer said 2 million is what he wants to put aside for this, which I don't know how that's gonna happen.
Right.
yeah,
Which is why I really hoped he was gonna be here tonight. But he's also the one that said, well, if we can do this in phases, then that could extend how much we could spend on the whole construction cost. We just have to spread it out over a few years.
So with us being a small village, we actually cannot even borrow that much money.
Yeah.
Like, it's
yeah, like. your
legally
bond-
not possible. I
Like
don't
your
know how to
bonding
say it.
capacity.
Yeah,
Yeah, like you can't issue that much bond, like you
Yeah.
can't, it's impossible. We don't have enough to support it to where it's, even if we wanted to, and even if we
Yeah.
thought we could afford it, you can't.
Right,
Again, I'm sure I'm not saying it right, but you can't issue that much debt against a village this size.
In my world, our debt to income ratios don't work out here.
right.
Yeah, right, so.
It's like buying $1 million house when you only have a $400,000 budget.
I'm not
Yeah.
kidding.
Right. So it's not a matter of, it's just unless we have some sort of cash flow from grants or something else to make up some of that money,
Right,
you can't even issue that much, we can't issue that much debt,
yeah.
yeah.
And we've been putting money aside each year, but it's not,
millions, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And-
So-
and- yeah.
So ultimately, we might be able to spend 2.5, because of the money that we've been putting aside, but as far as what we can borrow against.
So we've also reached out to our grant writer, and I think I just told you that. So we've reached out to our grant writer. We were able to get a grant for the baby pool. It was $75,000 towards that baby pool.
Okay.
Most of that went to you guys, and it didn't really go to the baby pool. It essentially went to like the engineering, it went to all of that. So we still probably paid $75,000 for the baby pool. But we're hoping that we can find some grant options either for that, maybe some part of the parking lot being done. So when we look at this,
Yes.
when we look at this number, the one thing I would say is we want to we believe the parking lot is gonna have nothing to do with the pool.
Right.
There's certain things, like for example, and I know this is minimal, but the lounge chairs, like
Yeah.
furniture and stuff.
We-
Where'd it go? Like, we just spent however much money.
We've been
So I
buying
think some of that
chairs for
stuff is
3 years now.
in these estimates.
Yeah.
And there's, I think, little things that we could easily cut out as far as landscaping goes
Sure.
and do that later.
Right.
So, I mean, I know that's not ideal, but
So in some ways, we need to break it down to the bare minimum, and then do the,
we'll do ladders
like,
next time.
let's just say, like, one of the things in here is audio visual systems, right? The
Right.
secure, maybe we wire it, but we don't install it, kind of thing,
Which is what we did here,
Yeah.
so.
So those are the kind of things that we need to start to kind of figure out,
Okay.
and then finally figure out then what that price looks like.
Right.
But if you wanna, like, if we wanna talk about what we liked
Exactly.
and what we would hope for, like, we've had those discussions, I think we know.
Okay.
I'm afraid that it's still gonna be
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah, but, like, we were like this close to say, well, okay, we haven't heard what they like and dislike.
Yeah.
So we really can't do
I know.
even a reduced plan
Yeah.
yet that says, this is the most important thing. So I think that's our next step, to
Yep.
say, let's do the most efficient size pool that we can, that
Yeah.
checks as many of the program boxes.
Right.
That you guys have discussed.
Right,
Right, and just really be efficient with it and see what we can get that number to. Right?
Yep.
Leave the parking out, you
Yep.
can park on gravel, isn't that big a deal?
yeah,
Right.
Right, right,
The road needs replaced, so we've been in discussion, I think even with you guys on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I talked to Mike
Mike.
2 days ago.
Yep.
And kind of got the skinny on
Yep.
that. We were mainly looking at the utility connections.
Right.
Water, sewer, storm.
Right.
To see what's he had. I think we're in good shape, other than the water line needs to be replaced in that road, because it's from the 20s or 30s.
Right.
That's the area that we've had 2 or 3 water main breaks recently,
Yeah.
last last summer.
Yeah. So he was all over that. He knew, you know,
Yeah.
but it helped him clarify
Right.
what he thinks he needs to sneak in as an alternate or something like that for you guys to consider.
Yep.
From that. And so I just think, you know, this was more of the everything in the kitchen sink approach with these 3 options.
No, and that's what we asked for, so,
Exactly.
so you're good, yep, we
You
knew
gotta start
that.
there.
Yep, we knew that. Okay,
And so I think we're right at that point. So if you guys share what what are the features you like
yep,
about each,
yes,
then that would help us make that next
Yep.
step.
yep. Okay, so let's start with buildings. We like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think we liked, huh?
I should have brought my drawings.
Oh, because you marked them out, yeah. Okay, I believe we liked this one the best for buildings. The placement of the buildings on the property, and all that.
Okay?
Except, the one exception is, we keep talking about the event building and actually making it a little larger. And I'll tell you why. Because since this building, we get rentals people want to rent this building all the time. However, we don't allow certain liquids in here, the kids' parties, there's no paint in this room, things like that. And there is a definite desire from community people to have a space where they can have things like that. And our kitchen doesn't have any cooking equipment in it. There's no stove, there's a microwave, there's nothing like that.
Yeah.
So having a space that can also have room for caterers, I think is also important.
Yeah. It's like a
And
kitchen.
when we're talking about revenue generating things, that can be something that can generate revenue for the village all year round in the pool.
Yeah.
So that's why we kind of have talked about, what if the building extended all the way to the edge of the bathhouse office and then kind of went a little bit wider into that green space.
Right. And we played with many
Yeah,
of this because, the pool went for 3 months.
right,
And then the other 9 months,
exactly,
the event center
exactly,
continues to run.
exactly.
And
That's
so
kind
we're
of the
trying to
point
make it-
here
It
is,
felt like it had its own entry,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
this room is probably, size-wise, this room is probably okay. Like, I don't know that we need bigger necessarily, but bigger with a concession stand kind of / kitchen, yes, not,
Yeah.
but room-wise, this size might not be too bad. But I don't know what this room is, but,
Yeah, okay.
I don't know. Any other thoughts there?
No, I think this would be that wall, and we flipped the 2 walls, I think we just flipped them out when we were.
Yeah, we aligned the edge of the bathhouse and office.
Like pull the event center forward.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it extended it whatever that distance would be, the 12 feet or so.
Like the back half.
Yes.
The concession stand and all that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of something like that, yeah. But otherwise, go
I think
ahead.
if the space allows, if we can make it as big as, not a monstrosity, but as big as possible.
Sure.
Because I really think that one thing that's lacking in the area
Mhm.
is an event space to rent out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that this could be an actual real opportunity
Right.
for Minerva Park to,
Yeah, I think
bring in events
you're
and
right,
festivals.
and the other thing is, here, we don't have, I remember you saying 81 parking spaces. We don't have 81 parking spaces between all of this space,
No.
even what we added over here, there's not 81.
Yeah.
So the potential to have more people in that space is definitely
Yeah.
higher.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah. And that's really what you have today, but it's not paved and striped, right?
Correct.
So it tends to be,
Correct.
less efficient,
correct,
right?
yep.
On that.
Yeah, so, building wise, again, that's kind of there. Now, pool wise, we like the placement of this family pool. And we've gone back and forth with the lap pool and dive pool. There has been some thoughts of flipping it, like making it a mirror image of what it is,
Yep.
so that the dive well is closer to where the splash pad is here. That's more because of if we have events like swim meets and stuff, it just kind of draws that group further away from the family pool. Is really kind of the thought there.
Yeah, and the reason we have it that way is typically the dive pool tends to be the young teenagers. And so we tend to pull those away from the families.
I know, we surprisingly have a lot of young children that go off our diving board, so.
Yeah, everybody's a little different.
Some parents like to, they like that thought of being able to keep an eye on them, and that was another thought of, this would kind of keep it a little closer for those parents.
And here's another thing too, like that dive pool could be part of the lap pool.
Okay.
Right, in other words, if that whole square came into the lap pool and the boards went into the lap pool from the side, right? Then for meets they take the boards and they tip them up,
Okay.
right? And you basically have eliminated that much water, which is a savings of water.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely look at that,
Right.
absolutely.
I know the dive well being separate is great, but if you're really trying to whittle it down but still have that functionality, because the lap pools, unless it's, under 5 foot deep, right? It's hard to stand in it.
Right.
It's like this,
Right,
right? And I think the mayor talked about that, where you get in that water where it's up to your chin.
It is,
and
yeah.
You're doing this. And it's not very usable water.
right.
From that, and that happens, in the lap pools a lot, because they like to be 5 foot deep on the blocks
Right.
side. You don't have to have blocks on both sides.
Well, that was the other thought too, if we flip it, is that the blocks would be, we went back and forth. I know you said that you can get something that goes over the blocks.
Sure.
But if we get the removable ones, which I think Athens has.
Yep.
The thought was that it's closer to the equipment building to store them out of sight than to carry them all the way around.
Yeah.
So that was the only thought there.
Yeah. Well, and then the reason here's the other reason that we put them on that north side, right? When there's a swim meet, at the blocks is where the crowd is. And so if you're running a swim meet, at the same time you still have the family pool open.
Right.
You keep your crowd in the back,
Okay,
and it doesn't disrupt the families using the other pool.
right,
So there's a method to that madness.
okay,
Right, and so versus just setting up the blocks, we look at it from the function part.
sure, well, that's
Because-
good.
And a lot of times in the summer, they'll run the meets, like in the late afternoons.
Right.
Where parents can kind of get out of work early and still go to the meet and not be late, right? And so, and you don't want to shut the family side down.
Right.
Because that's when everybody wants to get there. 'Cause
Exactly.
It's a hot day.
Yep,
On that, and
Yep.
so that's why you see that.
yep,
In there, but I think we want to take the dive pool, pull it into the lap pool,
okay,
just to help save on water surface area that we're buying.
okay,
We could look at the same thing on the slide pool,
okay,
pull that in. Maybe use a wall that pokes out into the family pool, right, to separate that contact dumping pool
okay,
a little bit, and then just have the connection piece with the rope.
okay,
Right, so I think those are two areas that we could economize on the water.
right,
Like if you remember at the bottom of these schemes, and you pan up on this one, right? Where this is your existing pool to the left,
yep,
right, over here.
Correct.
Right, in the square footages.
Right.
And then this is the new pool configuration, as a comparison. So if you can see, if we combine the dive pool and the slide pool, then you'd probably have equal or maybe even less water than you have today. Now, most pools, when they're rebuilt today, are less than what was there because they're more highly programmed. They're built to program for exactly who's going to use them.
right,
The family, the zero beach,
yeah,
right? The lap lanes, the dive pool, right? Versus 50-year-old pools, which most of us are dealing with.
Yeah.
They just built the biggest piece of water they could build.
Right.
And they made it deep water and they made it shallow water. And everything in between made it
Yeah.
tough to stand in the water.
that's
So,
what we have.
that's just a progression of design, in pools
So-
over the last 50 years.
So I want to make sure that you didn't misunderstand me on one thing. It's, we when I say mirror image, not the family pool and the lap pool, just the lap and diving section, we were thinking about mirroring that. Does that make sense
So
now?
just flip it over
So that the lap pool was further away and the dive pool was closer, yeah,
Got
yeah.
yeah.
it. Those-
And again, kind of just to separate the crowd a little more from the
Yeah.
family pool.
Yeah,
Thank you for
well,
saying
and
Yeah.
in that reduced scheme that we're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
to really make it, if you really want to separate it, see where we had those two umbrellas between the
Yes.
0 feet and that?
Yes.
If we pushed it over far enough, we could get a piece of lawn in there.
Well, again, so that's the other piece. If you go back to the second one now, we really like that green space in between.
In the middle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
It really does
Now-
separate the pools.
Now, one of the things that we've talked about is we've been getting a lot of like lawn games for out of the pool to kind of
Okay.
entertain people when they don't want to be in the water or when the kids have to get out. So we have like Connect Four. We're talking about getting a giant checkerboard this year, like a 10-foot by 10-foot checkerboard.
Okay.
Cornhole, those type of games, right?
Yeah.
Jenga, giant Jenga.
Giant Jenga.
So one of the thoughts that we talked about was that lawn area actually being an artificial turf instead of
Synthetic.
actual grass.
You're seeing more and more of that.
Yeah,
Because
so that
it's
it becomes a
user-based.
play area kind of in between
Yeah.
where lounge chairs could be on either side of them.
Yeah, yeah, the Athens pools, if you went down there and looked at
Mm-hmm.
that piece of turf in there ended up probably smaller than it really should have been.
Mm-hmm.
And so it gets a lot of use.
Yeah,
And so the grass, they have to really
Yeah.
like baby that
Right,
to keep it in there.
right.
On that, so bigger's better if we're going natural grass.
Yep,
If we're going synthetic, the only thing you gotta think about synthetic is hot. It's as hot as a deck,
okay.
sometimes hotter.
Well, if we have some of these umbrella type structures around there,
Correct.
that might.
It would throw
yeah.
shade in.
Right,
Right, which is what we would probably suggest.
yes, yep,
On that.
And of course, costing, it'll cost more to put in the centers. If we're worried about that,
okay,
so,
Yeah.
just to think about.
So it'll cost more?
yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
synthetic turf costs more,
okay,
but there's no maintenance.
correct.
And you gotta replace it about every 12 to 15 years.
Okay.
So, that's the,
Things to wait.
Yeah, I think it would be nice to see,
Yeah.
but maybe it ends up being grass
Yeah.
instead. I think either way, that's kind of what some of the thoughts about the use of that space and why we'd want it there.
Yeah.
Because it also sits in the middle of both pools. We can see people with chairs all the way around it.
Yep.
Families keep their eyes on their kids, that
Right.
type of stuff. So
yeah, if they've got, multi-ages, they're in
Yeah.
both pools.
The
It's
other
a
thing-
great place to watch both.
the other thing that we liked on here was that there were steps going into the lap pool.
Yes.
We like that, especially because we have, we just see that there could be a use out of that.
Well said,
Yes,
well said.
Yes,
yes.
Or not?
yeah.
Well-
Might be better than a ladder. I might
Well,
not
it makes the
drown
lap pool-
helping someone in their inner tube.
Yeah, it makes the lap pool more friendly,
Yeah,
because you can walk down in
Yeah.
instead of jumping.
all right, sorry, that was
Okay.
kind of an inside joke for a few
Yeah.
people. And
Can I
then,
ask one question?
yes,
The diving boards,
Yes.
did we determine how high these boards are?
Well, they're typically 1 meter, or if you go to the high dive, it's 3 meters.
Can you do one of each?
And so we were thinking, usually most people are going with 2 1-meter boards, is what most of are have been going with.
I think we did that because of insurance purposes, but,
Right. And it varies by community,
mhm,
right? Some communities are like, sure, only wants 1-meter boards,
Yeah.
right? Whereas the Grandview, when they got that, they told the insurer, you figure out how to insure it, but we want our high board. We are not losing our high board. And we're like, oh,
yeah,
okay. They got a high board.
yeah.
They got a high board and a low
Is
board.
that what you're asking about?
Yeah, I was kind of curious as to if we were getting a high board, how high would it be? That if for some reason we had to keep it on the far side of the pool area, would it be an issue of privacy for the neighbors that are right up against there?
I don't think so.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, we purposely kind of tried to stay back from the edge, leave a lot of green space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right, in there, because, you know, the pool today is kind of slid more to the east, if you will. And just by, you know, getting the lawn area in there and spreading it out, you know, we're kind of using more of the site, in it, but it's still a roomy green, green space around it, right? But yeah, that's, but you know, so you'll need to have that debate on the boards, but most now are going with like 1 or 2 1-meter boards. You know, the low board.
Yep. The other thing that we talked about was the splash pad. It's kind of, we're kind of split half and half. Some people are like, I don't know that we need it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, is it something that could be prepared for future installment or?
Yeah. Splash pads are pretty easy to add
Okay.
at a later date.
Okay.
The issue with splash pads in pools, if it's inside the fence or not at the edge, then when the pool closes, you lose the splash pad.
Sure.
So some communities go, yeah, we like the splash pad, but we kind of want it over in the park
Yeah.
at another site,
Yeah.
right? And so it's separate.
Well,
So then it's
honestly,
usable.
if we wanted to add it later on, let's just go back to the third one for me, if you don't mind.
Yeah, there was a scheme where it was at the edge.
Well, there is, that was in the other one. But let's just say, in this space here, we left this green lawn
Yep.
where the poles are currently.
Yep.
You know, that could potentially be converted into a splash
Sure.
pad,
Oh,
right?
right,
Yeah,
right.
and that has inside and outside, it could potentially have inside-outside access, because it's right on the fence line.
Yeah,
So,
right.
you know, I think if we can kind of talk through that, and if that could be maybe a future option, that would be cool.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I felt like most people felt like there was not a strong attachment to saving those
Yeah.
pillars, those
Yeah.
posts.
Yeah. It's-
I get it, right?
Yeah.
There's,
They're highly
Yeah.
unusual.
yes,
And, you know, you could easily see the photo of the old pool hanging up behind
yep,
in the main entranceway.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, there's those things.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know,
if it's not important,
Yeah.
well done,
yeah.
right?
I think-
We tried to work them in these just
I
because
think
we
so.
thought it was kind
Yeah,
of cool.
no, I think they're cool too.
I'm a fan, but
I think if, and I don't know if it's possible, I don't know if you could relocate them, but could they get relocated over that, green space and us use them
Sure.
to tie,
Typically-
sunshades to them?
Yeah, sunshades to
Yeah.
them. Yeah. They're certainly heavy enough
Yeah,
that you probably could. The issue that we'll get into is someone will have to engineer that.
okay,
And so like the pre-engineered, sails that are tied to
Yeah.
posts,
Yeah.
it's all new, so it's all controlled.
right,
So, not that we couldn't find someone to do that, but that's where you get into the, I don't know if I want to do, engineer that, but likely, you could. They're heavy. I mean, they are big.
yeah.
They're just unique. You don't see that.
Yeah, I know,
And
but,
so
yeah.
we showed that if you couldn't.
yeah, it was kind of,
something,
again, it was
this
kind of a
is the shape.
50-50 thing. I think I like nostalgic things like that, but
Yeah.
not everyone felt the same way.
Yeah.
Felt
Some
like
people
we
may not
could-
have an attachment to it, and then they'll see it in a photo, and in 10
Yeah.
years they'll be, I remember the old pool.
Right. The other thing is, 5 of them or so are located outside of the pool. Those could stay, or else just remove the ones that were in that
Yeah.
green space. The
Right.
3 that were left in there.
Right.
And-
And you wouldn't have to save them all either.
Right.
You could just save,
Right.
a grouping of them,
Yeah.
or a row of them.
So, I feel like that was the bulk of our conversations. Do you guys agree? Okay.
Okay.
So,
Can I ask a quick question?
absolutely.
So on the family pool, you mentioned, I think you liked.
We like the direction.
Of the three.
Yes, we like that direction. And I'll tell you one of the reasons is the slides that they're high. We like that that's the furthest away from the houses.
Yes.
Because there was some concern that, these people might be able to look in people's houses.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that was part of it.
yeah.
And-
And it's near the new bleachers.
Correct.
Yeah.
A
Which is
lot
also
of the
tall.
noise is probably on the right side of this picture.
Yeah.
When you think about family and kids and whatnot, and
Yeah.
not the left side, except for events, right? Swim meets
Yeah.
or whatnot, so,
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the lap and the dive tends to be quieter
yeah,
than the family pool.
correct.
The family pool is, whew, it's a carnival.
Yep. So
Okay.
does that help? do you guys feel like you know?
Immensely.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, and I put a call into Tim Patterson at Patterson Pools.
okay, yep,
Just to get him, he's unfortunately on vacation last week and this week. But I want to talk to him about phasing, if he
Okay.
had ever done a project where we phased it.
right,
So
Like
as
that.
far as phasing goes, I mean, I get what you're saying about like all the buildings and stuff like that. But on a project like this, I know it's not ideal, but if you did everything except the lap pool and the dive pool and did those in the second phase, so everything was in the first phase and then those two things, because you would be up to code. I mean, I know it's not ideal because you want, you want
Oh.
but you would still have the baby pool, the family pool, the slides, the
Sure.
buildings.
Sure.
so let me throw something at you. I know where you're going, and I was thinking a different approach.
Okay.
I was thinking the buildings first with the lap pool, because those are potential revenue generating for the pool. And the fact that our pool is not big enough for swim meets currently. And with that, we'd have the size that we need. And because we already have a coach that rents our pool in the morning, he's very interested in the fact that it would be a regulation size pool for meets.
Okay.
We used to have 2 people rent it. She has purchased her own pool and done all that now, so she doesn't use it anymore. So the fact that, we could charge for swim meets and stuff like that and have that concession stand to go along with it, because that was the other thing. They said, when you have swim meets, your concession stand sales go through the roof.
Oh, yeah.
And we need to see that income to justify the loans for paying for this
Right.
pool, especially to the community.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So you have to look at that pro forma, right?
Yeah.
And usually the aquatics group, at least, one of them that we use, they know because they run pools, they have all the operations as well, including concession. And so they can help, when you get into that.
Yeah.
They can help, and they can probably share even early what you could conceivably get as an income
Okay.
off of that.
Okay.
And so they could probably share that with us even at this level that says,
Okay.
here's some examples, which then would maybe make a finance person a little more comfortable about, okay, well this would amortize out like that.
I think-
torn. I could, I don't know that the lap pool would generate that much money.
It might
It just
not.
depends,
It might not, but the lap pool with the concession stand, that's where it's
Could
the
be.
combination of the two together, right?
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying. You don't make a ton off.
Yeah.
Event space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When else do we build the event space first?
Yeah,
Right.
Event space would be
Right.
probably the best income generator.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Just, clearly.
Yeah, for that, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Well,
Yeah,
and
we were
then-
thinking along
and-
the lines of the facing the pools too.
Yeah, and here's the thing, the event space with because the event space currently on how we're looking at it right now, houses the concession stand.
Right.
My guess is from a health code stance, we would have to update the bathhouse office as well.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna have to have the 3 sinks for the
Yep.
food license and the restrooms. We don't have hot water in our restrooms right now, that's been an issue.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, if we start with that corner of it and then work into the rest of it, is that, because what did you put for this building? Restroom, changing rooms was $500,000.
Yeah.
And then event space.
50, but, again, we were spitballing because of size.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was starting to think about, like the pool mechanical. I mean, you want that in the building.
Yeah, oh
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
If you had to do the Worthington thing and it was in a tent, I worry about that.
no.
Okay.
Well, we're not
All
doing,
right, I just.
we're not doing that. No, we're not doing that.
Vandalism.
I got enough stress in my life.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, we're shocked at how Worthington has been band-aiding this. Because they, what happened is Worthington sold, or basically turned their pools over to the private entity to run
Yeah.
25 years ago.
Right.
And it was fine then, But now, when it comes time to replace the pools, that entity doesn't have a funding source. And so I think the city's going to need to take them back,
Yeah,
right? And so while it may have worked for operations for that,
Right.
20 years, 25 years, it's got to come back around.
what I heard for the Worthington was that they're trying to decide if the levy would be for Worthington itself or Worthington School District.
Right.
Because school district is a bigger pool of money, so,
Yeah, well, and their high school swim team swims at that, at
Oh,
that indoor
okay.
facility.
okay, yeah.
And in fact, they have such a good club team there that they probably make money because the team's so popular and they're actually very good.
Yeah,
So a lot of people are getting in there on it. But that's an indoor facility.
right,
Even though it's a glorified Butler building, which is starting to come apart.
yeah,
So they know they got to replace that.
right,
It's just,
Yeah.
But that's what happens in pools, is they, especially indoor ones, if they're built, at the lower end of the materials, for the structure.
yeah. So,
Gehanna's about ready to kick off an aquatics master plan. Their RFP is out right now.
who is?
Gehanna, City of Gehanna.
Okay,
And so they're in that same boat.
yeah.
They're-
So see, that's where obviously we're in the same boat too. So, when we look at, we've had meetings where we've pulled up a map of the area and we're like, there's, Gehanna's the closest to our east is this way, sorry.
Yep.
Worthington's the closest this way,
Yep.
and Westerville Highlands is the closest this way. There's nothing south of us,
Right. It's pretty void
So-
until you hit one of the old pools of Columbus.
probably. If there's something in Linden area, then there might be something over in there, but
Yeah.
there's nothing. A lot of our members come from Forest Park over here to the west, Strawberry Farms over here to the east, and then just south, kind of between Morris Road and 161 right here. Like, that's the bulk of our membership, some across the way,
Yeah.
but,
And you have a step thing, like if you're in the village, it's one rate. If you're
Correct.
from outside the village, it's a premium rate, right?
Yeah.
You pretty much have to.
yeah.
Okay.
So, buildings, so let's go back to, I don't wanna abandon phasing it because, so let's talk about, well, you can stay on
No, go
that.
back to the-
Yeah, go back on that one because this one has the prices on it and I just kinda wanna understand the price per square foot and kind of what that includes.
Zoom into the-
Yep, you were just on it, so, yeah. Okay, so 17, that wouldn't happen in this phase. And I'm just hypothetical here, right? If we start with the building,
Yeah.
we're talking about 16 and 18, right? Or
Correct.
is,
If you're thinking just buildings first.
18 in one plan? There was one,
Yeah, we grouped it by what we think we would have spent on the square footage.
yeah,
Right? So we can separate it out probably.
well,
in
if
this
you're,
next version.
if we're looking at this third space, right? It's called on the plan, event building, bathhouse and office.
Yeah.
So 18 says event space, pool office and entrance,
Yep.
but I'm guessing,
That's the L building.
Is it?
is it, or is
Because
16
that
and 18 together?
isn't changing though, can I go back for a second?
Yeah, so that's my question. Is 18 considering both spaces here? Or if you go to number 2,
I'm wondering if.
right? Number 2, we have them separated.
Yes, we separated them out,
Yeah.
so we might have priced two.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we priced 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is what we did.
So then are we really looking at, go back to that. So are we really looking at 21 for building that space?
Probably.
And honestly, if we make it bigger, we're probably looking closer to,
Yeah.
what, 850 maybe?
Yeah.
Because we're not talking about a lot of inside stuff to make the building bigger.
Yeah.
It's really,
Right.
Floor
The kitchen
and walls,
and the
right?
baths is what drives it up.
right. And we're not talking about expanding that, we're just talking about expanding the
Right.
footprint of the
Just
building.
the open room.
Yeah.
Right. And the open room is gonna be, in that, lesser square footage cost range.
Right.
Right.
So, I mean, I feel like starting with something that's less than $1 million is very reasonable. My other concern though is how much life do we have left in our pool?
Right.
But,
And I was gonna ask that, I could ask Patterson that too.
Yeah.
So just say, what do you think? Could you guys continue to Band-Aid this for
yeah.
5
Well, I'll tell you,
years?
Rick West, he helped put stuff in that pool. He's the one that paints it for us. He's done the filters for us,
Okay.
some of the filters, I don't know. He installed the original filters as a teenager. Yeah.
He's been Band-Aiding, he's the one that's been Band-Aiding
Yeah.
the filters and everything.
So, what was my point here? He said, you probably have quite a bit of life left in the pool. I don't know if that's true or not.
Here's what I would say, if we continue to do what we're doing, saying that we have a lot of life left is still costing us 10, 15,
Yeah,
20,
yeah.
50,000. I
Yeah.
mean, we painted the pool almost $20,000, $20,000 last year. One filter's
12.
10, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're spending 20, 30,000 minimum just to
Yeah.
We're paying a lot of maintenance on the pool right now. And we get it, but I think the pool we're getting closer to operating in the black. But we're not quite there yet.
Is
The
that
village
because
is,
of new residents and or more people joining?
we are getting more people joining. The last 2 years have definitely gotten better. We've spent some money, right? But
Okay.
we still have been in the red. But, every year we bought $10,000 worth of lawn chairs for the pool. So, this is our third year buying them. We have 178 brand new lawn chairs at the pool, right? And we have 40 new chairs for the chairs. We have, we bought a commercial freezer. We bought, there's lots of things we've been buying to help improve it. And we're seeing memberships go up because of that.
Okay.
But we haven't gotten to the break-even point.
Okay.
We're really hoping that this year we'll get there, and we've put together a lot of things to increase membership and get people involved at the pool. Trying to think how do we fill in the slow hours, right? So that we can show a profit. But again, I think putting this building in would help because all that money would come in if we get event space. That's
Especially if you did call it more robust or unique concession,
absolutely, yeah.
right? Getting
Yeah.
ready for the new pool.
Yeah, because right now our concession stand is whatever's frozen that we can heat up in a microwave because that's the food license we can get.
Yeah.
So,
I got the new one
okay, good.
in my house.
Yeah. The only thing that I heard out, and I've been requisiting Tim Patterson. The only thing, because he's worked on some of the major things,
Yeah.
right? And so he recalled a few things. The only thing that he was really worried about is the steel walls.
Oh, yeah.
And in some areas, it's like perforated. And he just doesn't know how prevalent that is, or is it just in certain areas? And I think they were able to fix it.
Yes. They also fixed a major, we had one person fix it the first time, and then I believe Tim's team came back and fixed the second part to it, but we had a very large crack.
Yeah.
Where it had settled. We're going on our this will be our third year with those repair. Well,
Yeah.
the first repair was done, then we fixed it again 2 years ago. So we are, I know the rest of the village doesn't do this, but every year I'm like, are we gonna lose, that first 2 weeks, I'm just like, are we gonna have to close it? I mean, there have been repairs done that could potentially break right in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
We become very religious when the pool opens each year, so we're praying a lot.
Yeah, we definitely do our fair share of praying. And I will say 2 years in a row, we have both been short at 9 o'clock at night, are we even opening tomorrow?
Yeah.
So, and that's been the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So we are literally coming up to the hour of the hour of opening
Right.
to find out if we're gonna open because of repairs being
Right.
completed.
And one big issue that can't be overcome, could close it.
Correct.
Right.
Just, we pushed it to the wire too many times, and this year, just like we said last year, we're not doing that again this year.
Yeah.
So,
So to your phasing point,
Yeah.
one of the thoughts here, what I'm
Yeah,
hearing
yeah.
is that replacing the buildings, limping with the pool, as long as you can, until other monies can get pulled in, and then you replace the pool. And maybe pools, family pool, and then later,
it could
lap
be,
dive pool, or vice versa.
it could be, yeah, it could be, yeah.
And then also with the potential of maybe getting multiple year grants
Right.
to do,
Yeah.
you know, just, again,
Yeah.
to make a dent in it.
Yeah,
I believe you told us at one point, you know, we could put the infrastructure in for the slides and add those later. Did you not? Or no?
Yeah.
No?
yeah,
Okay.
oh, yeah. Yeah, the
Because the
slides.
slides were a good little chunk, right?
The slides
About a quarter.
are really very componentized.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah,
Even if you, let's say in the family pool, we pulled the slide and drop pool into it and added that little wall, right? You could run the pool with the wall in and the slides aren't there, right? And everything's there, the
Right.
intake,
Right.
it's just not used.
Right.
And then the slides come in and get dropped in later.
Right.
But your pool's built for,
Right.
already set for it,
right,
right? Because it's,
right.
slide pool drop in is all
Right.
about,
But we could run the piping and stuff for the water and all that,
sure.
and then
And,
keep it capped
you know,
off
even
or
the
something.
mechanical room, you can set it up so that you leave part of the floor out, right, where the new pumps would go.
Right.
The piping can all go out at that point,
Right.
as long as the routing is figured for it across
Right.
the site,
Right,
right, so that when you dug it up, you would lose turf, but turf's pretty cheap,
sure,
right? And, if you're adding components like that.
right,
But the site plan, what we would want to do is make sure the site plan accommodated that phasing
Sure.
strategy. So that
Sure.
you're not, tearing up new work. You're maybe tearing up lawn,
right.
right? and
Right.
stuff, which, we can do that.
I think this is really a turning year for the pool, I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
We've done so much over the last few years, and I've been watching memberships come in over the last couple of weeks, so
Yeah.
I can see we have a lot of brand new members that have
Yeah.
never been at our pool before,
Right.
so,
Okay. Yeah, that's encouraging.
it is,
And
absolutely.
new pools will attract,
Exactly.
because it's new,
I know,
will attract like 20 to 30% more,
Right.
that year one.
Right.
Because everybody's like, it's a new pool, let's go over there.
right, right.
Right.
And again, there's nothing to the south of us, so we really draw those people in. And I hear all the time how complaints about Highland because it's so crowded.
Oh,
Right.
it gets overrun.
Yeah,
They
and where
turn
people
away.
get turned away at the door, but
Yeah.
the families like the facilities that they have there. So we've got to get some of those facilities to draw those people away from there. Because we're so close, you
Yeah.
know, we've got to do
Yeah.
that.
Well, you're a solid alternative, right?
Exactly, yeah,
For
yeah.
this whole area.
And our kids go to Westerville schools. So we have 3 Westerville schools in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So these kids know each other.
Yeah.
They want to go where their friends are. This could absolutely be the backup alternative.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I'm sure all of you have fond memories of summers at the pools.
I tell you, I took my kids to the other pool because this pool was so boring. So I took my kids and they wanted to be around their friends,
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, when they were younger.
yeah,
Same. We used
So-
to go to JC because that's my kids went to school there.
Yeah.
The Highlands. So,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
I think that strategy is doable
okay.
from that.
I feel like financially, it's doable for us too.
Yeah.
And I'll get a lot more buy-in from
Yeah.
our fiscal officer.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And I'm thinking, like, we're doing a fair amount of work with that Appalachian grant money that's come down to the state, which is serving all the, basically from the east and all the way south.
yeah,
And the state needs to get monies for Parks and Recreation for just these exact projects for the urban areas, because not every community is like that,
right,
and it's, I mean, they're gonna find out about their funding on specific projects next week. And that is gonna make a lot of those communities down there, like, whole again, for the most part. But you can also see the same need in the more urbanized areas.
right,
And so, hopefully the state will kind of follow through with that. I mean, it's Fed money, it's coming down what it is. But for exact projects just like this, where it's very difficult to replace facilities that have been around for 40, 50 years.
yeah.
What is the pool heater system?
What's that?
What is the pool heater system?
Pool heater?
Is it an actual?
Under
pool
mechanical,
Yeah. Yeah.
is it actually,
Some communities clearly wants a heater. Like Dublin wanted a heater.
heater? Right, of course.
Others are like, nah,
I was just curious, yeah, I mean,
What about, I didn't realize that line was in there.
I didn't either,
What,
Just saw
do you guys have much experience with, solar heating? Like,
It's unfortunately not that efficient.
okay, no, that's fine,
Yeah. Yeah, especially in this climate too.
yeah. I didn't know if you ran black pipes on the roofs of the building, if that would heat it up from the sun.
You can, but it's, the water volumes are so much
Uh-huh.
that you don't get like bang for your buck out of it.
That's fine,
You know, it just, yeah.
I don't mind I wouldn't mind a pool heater system. It's cold at the beginning of the pool season,
Oh, man.
but
Yeah, it is. You know.
especially last year, it was so cold. It was so cold.
Yeah,
I'm a baby.
Are things like that, I feel so cheap when I say this, but are things like that things you can add later on?
you can.
Okay,
But you want to plan for it.
yeah,
Like Dublin, it was an alternate,
okay,
but they ended up doing it,
yeah,
Well, we
right?
did that with the building, I mean,
Yeah.
that was the one thing, you know, as we get a little bit closer, that was the one thing that we did do with the building, I mean, we did a full generator, we did, I mean, I think we had we even had sidewalk
Yeah.
heater, yeah, we had sidewalk heaters, that was an alternate, I mean, we didn't do it,
that
but
electronic sign out sign.
that electronic sign out
Was
there
an
was an
alternate.
alternate, so I think we had
Yeah.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9 alternates,
Yeah.
and, I mean, and maybe that's what we do once we get to like the splash
Yeah.
pad and everything, I know in a dream world, we would love to see it, but if that's one of those alternates that's like, okay, we can do this, but we can't do this,
Yeah,
it would be, you know, and then if we hit the lottery between the
Yeah.
deciding factor, we can
Hmm.
just add it back in.
Yeah, I know, Dublin, it was on the alternate list too.
Right.
But it was also designed so that the heater units were outside, so they didn't increase the size of your mechanical building. And so it fed, through that and into the pools.
yeah, okay,
And so if you didn't do it, the pipe just went on out the pools. And if the heater went in, they just inserted the heater, the pipes, and it plumbed through that. That's, so you can design for it, you just gotta reserve the land for it, right, or the space for it.
So can you kind of, I guess going forward, right, can you kind of get us an idea on if we start with the buildings? And I would say with that, the improvements to those sewer line and all that type of stuff, can we upgrade it at that time?
Yeah,
Or-
what, the conversation I had with Mike, he thinks your sanitary is golden, because they're gonna reline it anyway on something.
Okay,
The storm, he thinks, is also good,
Okay.
and the sizes appear to be good.
okay,
The water line is just an age thing, but out in the main road, it's got a new valve
okay,
that feeds the old line, which was done with the new line that was in that main road on there. So he feels good about that.
okay,
So he said, when you would do the road to the pool, and I think he said you guys talk about doing it as an alternate right now,
yeah,
and he's just unsure how that would play. But when you redid the road, you would redo the water line up to the pool property, right, where the gravel parking lot starts.
right,
Or maybe you take it to the future mechanical building, right?
Right.
While still, feed the old one or something,
Right.
right? Just to get that piece in, so it's a line off the pool budget. And is in the roadway budget, I think it's paid for some of the state funding that comes in, right? Through that, I forget what that is.
just trying to see if I can find the email from him, but I don't see it.
thing. And so I explained, the situation to him. He goes, okay, that helps me. I can put more in, like the parking lot.
Right.
We can put that in any paving project that we're going to have for the next 5 or 10 years.
Right.
They can continue to park on gravel until we can do it, or we do a piece of it.
Okay.
And like the entrance and the front, and then we'll do the next loop, right?
Yeah.
With other projects.
Here it is, so he's saying, looking at our CCTV information and talking more about potential pool improvements, there's some utility improvements that should probably be included with the Valley Road, so,
That was it.
okay,
Yeah. So our discussion helped him, it helped him clarify what
Yeah,
he thinks
well,
that scope needs to be.
I knew that you had mentioned maybe we need to upgrade some stuff.
Right.
And when I saw Valley Road repavement and surfacing coming up, I was like, hold up, we don't want to pay for this twice.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And I think it's a 6-inch water line, which is probably even more than we need
okay,
on that.
okay.
But you also don't know what you're gonna do long-term on it. So, could he downsize it? Maybe, but it's still a water line replacement, but he says it's so much cheaper to do it with the road.
Yeah,
And it's,
right,
it's easy
right,
for that. And
Okay.
so he thought you get pretty good value out of that. And at some point, you're gonna need it anyway.
Right.
With the pool.
Right.
And an event center. If the event center grows as well.
good, okay. What else do you need from us?
That's pretty helpful.
Okay,
So that helps us with this next plan, option 4.
Okay.
Right, we'll try and take all that into account.
Okay.
And we'll probably show it in a phasing. Here's a phase 1,
Okay.
here's what phase 2 would look like, here's what phase 3 would look like, right? Just so we have options.
Perfect.
And then basically take the estimate and break it out that way too.
Perfect.
So it's more of a roadmap for finance.
okay,
Right? Yeah, that helps immensely.
that'd be fantastic.
Because, we just weren't sure
I know,
with the finance thing, how we were gonna get to closure at this point.
Yep.
Even though we're not designing the pool, we're really trying to design the pool,
Right.
because we're trying to get accurate costs.
right,
Well, and I think once we figure out where the event space is going, and this is going, and that's going, when we start doing all of that, I mean, you can't move it later.
yeah.
Right.
Well, I think where we show it is the perfect spot for it. And,
It doesn't affect the existing pool.
all it does is affect the current concession stand and entrance to the pool, but heck, that's,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I love how we're getting to keep those trees too, because those are,
oh yeah, no, yeah, we're not,
I mean, those have gotta be,
we're not
those
messing
have
with
gotta be
those trees.
75, 100-year-old oak trees. I mean, that would be such a shame.
Oh,
So that's wonderful to see.
we would fall on a sword to
Yeah,
keep those.
yeah,
Well, plus they're oaks,
right.
so they still have a lot of life left in
Oh,
them.
yeah.
I think
An
two of
oak
them
tree
are
can live
oak.
300, 500 years depending on the species
Oh,
and conditions.
every bit of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. So obviously, we're not getting anywhere near that.
Yeah. No, that's great, yeah.
And those trees are teenagers at most.
What, okay, so what should we expect then? Are we talking a month or?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, you guys meet monthly?
we do, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So it might be good to be back maybe at the next meeting?
yep, well, it's gonna be, I've already told Barb, it's the third Thursday
Okay,
in April.
Okay.
So, it's the one night, so we have council things every Thursday, and it's the one night we don't have council things.
oh, that's
So,
what you usually feel.
yes, so I filled it in tonight
Gotcha,
with this, so,
okay, all right,
yeah,
that's great.
cool.
April 18th?
That sounds right, yeah.
April 18th?
Oh, she's texted me, let me
Okay.
look. I'm pretty sure that was it.
Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Are you out?
It's my birthday.
Oh,
Ow! Oh, that's your birthday? Okay. Well, it's like today's my anniversary.
oh, man. Oh,
Honey, I got a meeting tonight.
yeah, April 18th, 6 PM.
My
So-
husband's birthday was on Monday, we're bowling.
Without,
No, she went
you were
home.
both.
Yeah, yeah.
Which would have been very long enough.
Which is one of the reasons why we moved this meeting to a Thursday night, because it used to be on a Monday night. It's not always to accommodate Gina, but
It works better for me.
yeah, it worked better for the mayor as well,
Yeah.
I
so.
really try to not do Mondays,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's every single day.
Yeah, it's her day off from the office, and I needed to have meetings on Mondays for her too,
Got
so.
it.
Cool, well, good, I'm excited.
Great. Well, thank you for the input. That's great.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I can tell you guys had put a lot of discussion into this.
Oh, we talked a lot about it, yeah,
It's a lot of
yeah.
memories.
And we've shown a lot of
Okay.
people,
Right?
I'll be honest, these plans are actually up on our pool site for members to look at.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It solicits input,
yep,
right?
yep, see, future Minerva Park right there.
Nice.
So,
Okay.
all the plans are there.
Yeah, the process is probably scared the crap out of them, but
Yeah, uh-huh, yeah.
I laugh at
So-
that. I think it's important for people to understand where we start, and then, again, eventually when we get to some point,
Yeah.
Right,
I mean, you have to start somewhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
We did that with this building, I mean, we talked about this building being, $500,000 to $5 million, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to start somewhere. Exactly.
Good timing.
That's good.
Nice. Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Great, thank you.
All right, cool.
Okay, I'm gonna go, I know you've got,
yep.
I'm gonna go.
I know.
No,
What-
I'm coming right back.
No, you're fine.
I gotta take a call.
So we'll adjourn this meeting. We good to adjourn? Yes? Someone would say yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.